Okay, we're live. We're live, we're up. So welcome to River Valley Town Square. On this show, we interview people in the community that are making a difference. We're here today. We'll go ahead and just open up with our first sponsor, Roy's Heating and Cooling, also a great member of the community that does a lot for us. But today we're here with Tryston Hines from the Joseph House. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, you're over, the Joseph House is over behind La Huerta at the Crayball House, right? On
Yes.
the Tech campus?
Yes.
Just tell us a bit about what y'all do and how you interact with the community.
So we support our foster and adoptive community. We've recently expanded from just Pope County to include Johnson and Yell and Conway County as well. If any foster families need resources or support, they can attend some of our programs or come get what they need from the actual house. So all in all, you're looking at about, between those and adoptive families, about 300 children a year. So we're able to provide a facility full of gently used clothing. We only do brand new socks and underwear. We have some shoes, school supplies, backpacks, anything that a foster family might need if they get a placement in the middle of the night to be set up for the week.
Mm-hmm.
And the community really helps us out by providing those donations. So they can either contribute their gently used items for those kids to actually use, or by donating financially so that we're able to fill in those gaps, like underwear and toiletries and things like that. And then we also have people come out and volunteer and help us keep the building running and sort through donations and make sure everything's organized and easy to find what they need very quickly.
Very good. And how long have you been the director over there?
I have been the director for about a year and a half. Before that, I was privileged to be on the board for a few years, and then just kind of naturally over-volunteered myself, I think. Yep. So
over-volunteered yourself into the director role?
I think so.
And this is what you do full-time?
Yes.
It keeps you busy?
It does, but I enjoy it immensely. It's very much a privilege.
Absolutely. And you partner with other organizations, like some we've done some stuff with in the past, RVCAC and CASA. Mm-hmm. So can you tell me about, for someone that is privileged enough to not know much about what this experience is like, just tell us this journey of a child and how they get to the point where they're now, their family's coming in, their foster family's coming in and using your services.
So it typically will start with a hotline call. You have mandated reporters at schools. Mm-hmm. You have people just watching out, and if they notice something that seems like that child might be in an unsafe environment, they would make a hotline call. At that point, DHS would get involved, and they would send out an investigator. The investigator would kind of get a good feel for if that family needed protective services just within the home, or if it was unsafe enough that the children needed to be removed from that home. After that, a foster care case is opened, and the family has a certain amount of time to work their case and complete the steps necessary to be reunified. In the meantime, those children are placed with a foster family. So a foster family could be, it could be fictive kin, so it could be their Sunday school teacher. They could go with a school teacher. They could live with a neighbor. They could live with anybody who's made a positive impact in their life that can keep them safe in that kind of middle time before they go back home. If they do not have relationships in their life where they can have that kind of safe place to heal and wait for their family to do that work, they would go into a more traditional foster family, and those are people who have actually trained to accept children that they don't know 24/7 really, just into their own home for however long that takes. I've had children as short as a few hours before they found a relative placement or something like that, up to 3.5 years before that case was closed. So the time span is really, it varies. So in the meantime, you're going to have people like CASA and the ad litem and just their caseworker, all helping during that foster care case to help the biological family do what they need to do and get those resources that they're needing, and also make sure that we're working in the best interest of the child too.
Mm-hmm. And you said you were fostering kids for about 8 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you choose to do that?
My husband and I, after we had our first, we had 2 children, and we just felt very convicted that we had plenty and there were children that were going without. So, for example, we had a 4-bedroom house and 2 kids. So there was an empty bedroom. For a while, it was my photography studio, and then we kind of outgrew that, and I opened up a spot downtown, and so it was just this empty room. And it just really hit hard that we had an empty bedroom when there were so many kids that don't even have a bed at all, or staying on the floor at DHS. And to us, that was just not something that we could live with. So we went through training with the call and opened up, and the day I think we actually opened because they needed to place a kiddo. So a 4-year-old boy was in our house before we knew it, and he only stayed 2 or 3 days before he got to go home. So sometimes it is just they need a little bit of time before they can fix whatever that situation was. And then 23 children later, we were able to wrap up our journey with, we adopted our youngest. But I feel like that really gives me a unique perspective to be able to care for our local families, because I know firsthand how much is needed that first night, and trying to make sure that we're not having our foster parents financially troubled by trying to provide all those things immediately. And that's one reason why we keep so many resources at Joseph's House, because while foster parents do get a room and board stipend, it doesn't kick in until a month later. So it's retroactive. But when you're buying a bed or a changing table or diapers or anything like that, major investment is all up front. And then if you do that and the child only stays 2 or 3 days, then what? Or what if you buy a crib and end up with a teenager? So it works out really well for us to have all those things on hand, so our foster parents can come grab what they need, and then when they don't need it anymore, they can just bring it back and then get what they need for the next kiddo, which might be a completely different set of items.
Interesting. So it's basically almost like in a way, part of it may be a warehouse with all these supplies.
I wish I had a warehouse, but yes.
One day, maybe. Is there a shortage of foster families in the area?
Yes. The last time I checked those numbers, we had between 50 and 60 children in care just from Pope County, which is actually really low. Last year around this time, I want to say it was closer to 90. There was one year where it was well up into over 100, and that's just Pope County alone, whereas we only have in the 20s of open homes, and most of them have long-term placements, or after their long-term placement leaves, they might be on a break for a little while to kind of heal and recover before they take on a completely new case, because they can be very emotionally challenging. So it is incredibly difficult to find enough beds, and a lot of our kiddos end up going out of county. So when those calls come in, for example, when DHS needs a foster family, they'll send out a text, and it starts locally. And then if they can't find a placement, they just have to keep looking. And so then the search gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So one of my kiddos came from Miller County, and I didn't even know where that was. It was several hours away. We've had kiddos come from all over the state here, and then I'm sure our kids are also going out all over the state. So we desperately need more homes.
So is it more ideal to keep them in the county?
Oh, yeah.
So they can keep going to the same school?
Absolutely. So the goal is always to provide as much consistency for our kids as possible, letting them stick with their teachers who know them, who have developed relationships with them, who know what they need and where they're at. If they're in therapies, continuing their therapies and not disrupting the things that they need, keeping them close to their doctors and on medications instead of, when you move them to somebody who has no idea what's going on, they can do their best and they can love that child and provide an open door, but they don't know what that child is currently going through or needing. So if the more information we have, the more people we have involved in that child's life that can be consistent, that's always ideal.
So maybe someone listening that's thought about being a foster family, how do you know if you're a good fit for that? Or how does that?
If you're willing, you're a good fit. That's really it. So you would need to pass a background check. They would do a home inspection and just make sure that it's a safe environment, there's enough space. And honestly, you would be surprised. It's a very small amount of square footage needed per child. So anybody who just has a heart for it and thinks that they might, you could say, I just want to do emergency placements. I want to be available for 2 to 3 days max. I'm not emotionally ready for a long-term placement, but I want to be able to help. You can do that. You're probably still going to get the phone calls for something that is not in your wheelhouse, and it's okay to say no and be available for the kid that you can say yes to. A lot of people don't know that they're automatically eligible when they know a child that comes into care, as long as they can pass that background check and things like that. But if your niece or nephew were to come into care, the first thing they want to do is keep that kid with family as much as possible, because it's healthier for that child. It's less emotionally damaging. They already know and trust that person. So it's way better if we can manage that. A lot of our kids end up with their teachers. This isn't like a fact or anything, but in my opinion, I think teachers are already foster parents. They're watching other people's kids for a huge portion of the day, every day, and dealing with their behaviors and making sure their needs are met. So in my opinion, teachers are already fostering, even if they don't know it. And then a lot of it end up going home with those people because they have relationships. They know that that's a safe person. And then they can keep going to school and not miss out. Their education doesn't suffer. So a lot of our teachers end up being provisional placements, and they are awesome.
And you said beforehand, like, you know how long that placement will be.
No.
So if you're just available for emergency placements,
that would be a boundary, but that would not mean that that's only what that child is needing. Right. So that child would stay for 2 to 3 days before securing long-term placement.
Right.
Or sometimes I've agreed to long-term placement and was only needed for 2 to 3 days because somebody's aunt was found out of town or something. Sometimes it's just that they're not able to reach family members, and then later they get the information they need. Sometimes they find out about people, or relatives will call them and be like, hey, what's going on? And then start that process. So it just doesn't always happen immediately, and it just takes some time sometimes. A lot of our kids were just 2 to 3 days before they had stuff settled. So
tell us more about the building that y'all are in right now, and how it all works.
I love it because it's an actual home. So it was the Kraybaw's house, and then it's been used by ATU for housing for various things. And then prior to us occupying it, it was the CAC. And so there's already been a lot of really special things happening there. And I'm very honored that we get to continue that legacy of serving children and being there for them, even if it is in a slightly different manner. A lot of them are going to be the same kids too. So, but the house itself so the main house is kind of a welcome center for us, but it's also where the community can come drop off donations. They would need to reach out to us through Facebook or through our phone number, which is listed on our Facebook page, or just through our website or whatever, to be able to drop off donations. That way we don't have things just piling up at the door. I am there a lot of times, and sometimes I'm out collecting donations or picking up kids or things like that. So there's not always somebody actually there. There's not consistent hours, but if they'll just reach out, I can meet them down there. And then we have people that come by and help us kind of sort through those things, keep them on the racks, keep our stuff folded. So the main part of the building actually has most of our resources that we use for DHS. So Yell County comes, even the CAC comes by for materials for their at-risk families. If they're needing coats, or we've sent out several car seats and things like that. If we have it and somebody really needs it, they can stop by and we can help. So we've been able to send out several things to different partnering organizations, so they can come through. So we have all these tubs of clothing, all labeled by size. And they can just pull those tubs onto a table, grab a few things. There's another shelving unit that has toiletries, diapers, things like that they need. And then there's also a shower. And we were able to get a grant for lice kits. And so we keep that bathroom stocked with lice kits, because DHS doesn't have a shower. They just have a sink. So if they have a child that's needing a lice treatment before they're placed in a home, they can do it there, which helps tremendously. We've had several placements that it would have been nice to know that they had a treatment first. So we want to make sure that that's one way that we're taking care of our families too. And then there's the smaller house behind it that actually has just the parent shop where our foster families can come and go 24/7 and get what they need. And So those tubs that we have in the main room are kind of our overflow and donation sorting tubs, and it's just stuff that we keep rotating out very quickly. And then we have more of a larger set in the back. And
those
so if
cribs and
that's actually in a completely different storage shed. And so we have it's a 10 by 20 shed full of bed frames and mattresses and cribs and changing tables and the larger things like that. And then we have a different room that's just full of coat racks and has our tubs that have shoes in them. And then the larger baby items. So things like swings, bumbos, the walkers, pack and plays, things like that. Anything that we can find that can help our families, because they can just grab it and then bring it back when they don't need it anymore.
Very cool. Very cool. And as far as ways that people in the community can help, you mentioned volunteering. What does volunteering look like? That's sorting donations?
Usually, yes. So going through the clothes and making sure we only keep items that are stain-free, don't have any weird smells, no holes, no inappropriate slogans or anything like that. So all of our clothing should be school acceptable and clean. Now, anything that we can't use, or let's say it's a bunch of holiday clothing, we don't necessarily have the space to put a bunch of St. Patrick's Day shirts or Valentine's Day clothes or things like that. We don't really have room to keep a bunch of costumes. Now, we can set them out and put on our Facebook page. We have a private Facebook page for our parents and say, hey, we just got this in, so if you need it, come grab it. So that's one way we're able to communicate with our families about special items and not necessarily keep it stocked. But we send all of our overflow to a domestic violence shelter in Morrilton. So if we can't use it, it is going somewhere where it will be used. And so that's a really neat partnership that I love. So that way we don't feel obligated to find a space for everything. We can just make sure all of our racks and tubs are full and that we're finding the things that we need and everything is appropriate for our kids. But let's say it's formal wear, like businessy kind of attire. Our teenagers are probably not going to need that, but the adults at that shelter probably will. So it's really great for us to be able to send any items we don't need to people who can use them.
So as far as donating items, as long as it's clean, gently used, you pretty much will accept anything. And
except socks and underwear. Those have to be new.
Yeah, no socks and underwear.
So that's probably our biggest need. So we do Socktober every year, and it's really great. A lot of schools participate. Chambers Bank participated this year and had some sort of like battle of the branches where they were trying to collect a lot of socks, which is great. Underwear is not as commonly donated. It's not as fun. There's not a catchphrase for underwear, and I have been thinking about it. So if anybody has catchphrases for how to collect underwear, I would love your thoughts on that. But that's probably where a lot of our financial donations go, is to keeping our underwear tubs full, because we want to make sure that when our kids have needs, that what they're getting is clean, and that there's plenty. They don't have to just have a couple pairs. They need to have as much as our own kids do, you know, and know that they're being cared for and that their experience is as normal as possible. Obviously, it's not going to be quite as easy, but we can try really hard to make sure that it's as seamless a transition as possible.
And if anyone feels compelled to donate for underwear or anything else, they can do so on your website? Absolutely.
So on our website, which we just actually redone, you go to, it used to be josephhouserussellville.com, and now it's, you can still use that, but it's also josephshouse.info is a little shorter, and so that'll reroute. On our front page, we have our wish list button on Amazon, and then we also have a donate button, and so they can do that. And we partner with a program that doesn't charge any fees, so we get 100% of the donations, and then those are directly deposited into our account. We can see that, and then we can go out and buy what we need tax-free at Walmart.
Excellent. 501c3, I suppose.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
And volunteer hours, donations. The other thing that we mentioned was a phone number. You want to go ahead and just tell us what the phone number is in case anyone, I mean, I don't know if you should take calls for this or if you want to direct them elsewhere, but if someone's considering being a foster family, how would you suggest they?
So we don't recruit.
Right.
We just have programs. Like we have a family support night once a month, those types of things. We're trying to make sure we're taking care of our families, but we're not recruiting foster families. That's a completely different thing. So anybody interested in being a foster family, I would really recommend that they reach out to DHS or Sky Freeman over at The Call. She's fantastic, and that is what she can concentrate on and do really, really well. So we can get you open pretty quick. And then after you're opened through one of the recruitment agencies, we can then take care of all of your needs afterwards. We just did a Google number that I do not have memorized. It is on our website and it is on our Facebook page as well. But I'm happy to share it. So my phone number is 479-857-3086. And that Google number just routes to my phone anyway. So if they want to meet me down at Joseph's house to do a donation, or if they have any questions about how to get involved, they're more than welcome to reach out.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Is there anything else that you think we should cover today? Anything else the community should know?
Another way that groups, organizations can get involved is through the family support night. So we look for sponsors. So if anybody wants to help provide, we always do a meal and childcare for that, and it's once a month. So if anybody wanted to provide the meal for that and actually volunteer to do the childcare for that meeting, they would have essentially sponsored all of our Joseph's House families for the month. We usually have about 30 adults and 30 children. We typically just do pizza for the kids, so 10 pizzas usually covers it. But we look for, that's one way that people can get directly involved without necessarily going through the training to open their homes. But if they're wanting to spend time and serve very much in a physical way, once a month we do that, and they can actually love on our kids and bring a casserole or whatever that looks like. And we always have those at a consistent place. So we have that set up. We have activities for the kids. We just need people who want to be involved.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully someone watching does want to be involved. Again, go to josephshouse.info or josephhouseofrussellville.com or give Tryston a call. We'll put her number down below on this live stream. Thank you all for watching. To wrap this up, though, I'll just quickly say we're recording this podcast. We're live streaming this podcast here from the Co-Create Innovation Hub in Russellville, which is really just about this right here. It's about connecting the community and providing a platform for people to come and work and connect with other people. So we're honored to have Tryston and the Joseph's House on the show today. And thank you all for watching. Make sure to share this with somebody. You know, if you feel like anyone you know could donate, volunteer, or open up a home, send this their way, and maybe that'll just be the thing they need to start thinking about in their life. All right, thank you all.